Hey guys, Sean Fury here. Want to take a minute and talk about how I've been impacted by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the work he did to facilitate equality of value as a social experience and a social norm in society here in America for African American people and other minority groups. And I would say for all people as well, right? Including, gay rights and marriage equality that we have here in the, 2000s. That he sort of facilitated the conversation in America around equal access and equal opportunity and voting rights, right? Continued that from his predecessors. Anyways, he was assassinated and his life was cut short, which is very sad and, not okay. But when I was a teenager, I got exposed to him through a biography about him. And I was a guy, Caucasian male, living in rural Maine, right, which is mostly a white population. And I had no positive role models, right? And so I read about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and I thought, my first thought was, damn, how come I don't know any white guys that do anything cool like this? Like, this guy was out there standing up for something and using nonviolent strategies, but being heroic and persevering and leading people towards a positive, thing, right? Equality and freedom for everybody. And I just was really impressed by that. And I went on to study Malcolm X and, some other leaders and John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy and that whole thing that was going on back then relating to the civil rights movement. And I was really impressed by the way that individuals gave each other hero support. They would talk to kids and men and women and prepare them and say, if you're going to go to this march and you're going to remain nonviolent, what are you going to do when someone pushes your buttons? What are you going to do? How are you going to refrain from buying into acting out, right? Because people are going to push you. They're going to call you the N-word. They're going to make fun of you. They're going to spit on you. And they might hit you and they might try to kill you, right? So people had to learn to develop, an inner sense of heroic, status in the healthy spiritual sort of meaning of the word, like not an ego thing, but this is a real serious thing that's happening. And, if I'm going to make it through, then I have to persevere and I have to work as a team and I have to take initiative and follow through. So people did, and they changed the world, right? Because by marching nonviolently in the streets and remaining calm, they garnered the attention of the people who were racist and violent and who wanted to oppose them, right? The Sheriff Bull Connors of the world and the KKK people and other enablers of that community and those types of people and perpetrators. And sure enough, those perpetrators attempted to dominate the protesting group, despite the fact that the protesting group was being nonviolent. And this illustrated to the larger society the function of what was happening, right? That oppressors were and enablers of oppression were seeking to dominate people who weren't doing anything wrong and didn't deserve to have their thumb put on them, somebody's thumb, put on top of them, and to hold them down. And so because there was TV cameras and radio people and all this stuff watching, the whole world got to watch these people getting beat up and harmed and dragged through the streets and shot with fire hoses and stuff and bitten by, police dogs and stuff that were told to attack them as a means of shutting them up and shutting them down. And the people didn't give up. They persevered heroically. And because of this, legislation was passed to facilitate kids being able to go to school, right? Desegregation. People were able to go to the same water fountain, drink out of the same water fountain, go to the same restaurant, use the same bathroom as people with different colored skin, like, the white people in the community. And or the white people in the neighborhood, right? Now is becoming more of a community as people are able to actually have equality of value, regardless of what they look like on the outside. And I really loved that Martin Luther King Jr. talked about, how we're living in difficult times, but you have to have faith in your vision for the future and allow that to guide you to where you want to go, right? Don't just react unconsciously or non-consciously to whatever is provoking you. Don't be a puppet on a string, right? Because the man is going to try to put you down and to get you to act out. Because the man knows how to deal with people who are violent or aggressive, right? You just lock them up. You discredit that person and you say, look, they're a bad person. They did something wrong. So you don't want to allow that to happen. So you can't let people push your buttons. And so in this modern day, fast forward, right? We're still living in difficult times. There's still people that are racist, and there's still groups that are racist, and there's still people who are oppressive, right? And there's a lot more of them than just the people that you hear about on the news. But guess what? It isn't a white guy problem. It's not a white woman problem. It's not a black guy problem. It's an oppression problem, right? So I want to encourage people to remember that, as Martin Luther King Jr. said, you can't drive out hate with hate. You can't drive out darkness with darkness, right? You have to drive out the darkness with light. You have to drive out the hate with love. Because the reason why is that community requires inclusion, right? To me, there's two fundamental opposing cultures, or culture conflict. There's two cultures that are in conflict. One is the abusive culture that's oppressive, right? And that could be driven by anyone of any skin color, and it has been throughout history driven by many people with different skin colors and different genders, right? Probably. And then there's this other community where people are included and egalitarian and valued, right? And that doesn't mean it's a certain political ideology or economic modality. I'm talking about the way we treat each other. So it's just really important, from my point of view, that we remember that even though we're still facing dark times, you want to have a vision for the future of what experience do you want to have happen? What do you want to live with other human beings, right? If you want to continue to live in racism, then continue to behave as someone who is racist, right? Continue to judge people by their skin color. Continue to stereotype entire groups of people. Continue to bash somebody just because the media tells you you should, or just because it'll get you cool points with your group, right? Whatever your dominant social group is in your personal life. I'm not talking about your political affiliation. I'm talking about the people that are on your Facebook with you, the people whose news feeds you read, and your Twitter accounts, right? If these are the people around you and they're encouraging you to hate on someone because they're white, or to hate on someone because they're black, or because they're short or tall or gay or straight or rich or poor or an inmate or whatever, right? Or disabled. It's not okay. And the reason it's not okay is because you're destroying your ability to have a social rapport with those populations and to get your human needs met as an individual, right? For safety, for equality, for sufficiency, for freedom, for hope, for peace, for love, for balance, right? For joy, for acknowledgement. All these things are important. For transparency, right? You can only get these needs met when you have relationships with other people that are healthy and functional. And a healthy, functional relationship is one in which you both matter, right? You both have to give a shit about each other. So please don't buy into the hype when you see people being assholes on TV or in politics or in your community. Don't buy in, don't be like them, right? But also don't allow yourself to develop resentment towards them to the point where you become the racist or that you become the oppressor, because then you're just deceiving yourself, right? This is not what Martin Luther King Jr. wanted. What he said was that he wants to live in a society where his children can be judged by the content of their character, not by their color of their skin, right? So be judged by your character. Well, the first thing you got to do is understand what character is. This is your social habits, right? It's your managerial style. I wrote a book about this, and there's all kinds of different characters to be, and they're not all healthy. Most of them are not healthy. Most of them are toxic and dysfunctional. Most of them are forms of enabling of oppression, and there's a few that actively perpetrate and cause oppression, right? It's the opposite of freedom. It's the opposite of empowerment. You don't want to have bad character. You want to have good character, right? And you've got to understand that in your efforts to sort of be free from oppression in religious circles, you don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, right? There's a lot of spiritual principles that are very appropriate and accurate in their description of a perennial philosophy, right? That all the different cultures on the world have in common, whether it's Buddhism or Christianity or Islam or Judaism or Confucianism or Hinduism. And they talk about love and inclusion and sticking up for yourself, but also loving your neighbor as yourself, right? The 10 Commandments are laws about how to have a society. And I think if you look at all these different cultures, you'll notice, especially Martin Luther King Jr. was very spiritually based in his presentation. He was a minister. You'll notice that people who are guardians of the good life anchor their actions to a natural law. They look at nature and they say, what's good? Is it good for people to be put down and hurt? No, it's not. Is it good for them to be excluded? No. So this is a philosophy that's good for living beings. Anyways, I know I've talked a lot there, but that's just something important to me. And I was kind of feeling motivated to do a little talk about Martin Luther King Jr. and what he means to me, and why I think that you should be like Martin Luther King Jr. and continue his socially appropriate and strategically effective fight for equality of value, because that's how you dismantle oppressive social systems, right? Equality of value. Don't do the oppression thing. Don't try to dominate people. Dominating people only makes them resent you. It only makes them see you as the oppressor, right? So you don't want to be the oppressor if you don't like the oppressor, right? If you don't want to be thought of as the jerk, then don't act like one, right? It sounds obvious, but when we get wrapped up in like groupthink and we really want to get our approval of our peers, and society is telling us that this is trending and that's not trending, so it's not cool. You're not allowed to talk about it unless it's trending. And the only thing trending right now is how it's cool to be a racist, right? As long as you're a racist against white people, not cool. Don't be a racist against anyone, right? I'm not just saying that because I'm a white people. I don't want anyone being racist against me, and I don't want to be racist against anyone else. It's not okay to be racist at all. It's not okay to oppress. It's not okay to dominate. If you think of yourself as someone who's trying to make a positive impact on society, then you should not be facilitating oppression or anything of that nature, right? You don't want to be an enabler of bad things. All right? If you're out there staying heroic, staying true to yourself, staying true to other people, being socially appropriate, non-violent, being peaceful, being safe, being respectful, that's how you make it. You have to persevere, push through adversity, don't give up, but most of all, stay authentic and process your feelings, right? Don't allow the toxicity around you to change you and to cause you to become someone that you're not. Alrighty, I hope you have a great day and a great life. I'll see you later.